You believe your three-digit number is a badge of honor, a symbol of your trustworthiness. But the truth about credit scores is terrifying. It is the most sophisticated form of privatized social control ever invented. This is the credit score lie. While you struggle to keep your number high, the wealthy exploit the millionaire paradox. They leverage debt to build empires, while you are fed into the grinder of debt trap economics. With no mistake, we are living through an era of modern managed slavery disguised as financial opportunity. The credit score system explains simply as this: it measures your obedience, not your wealth. Psychological domestication. They train you to fear the number so you never question the lender. Schools called education was actually financial literacy versus debt training. You were taught to be a profitable servant. Interest until you die is the hidden cost of civic responsibility in this economic scripted reality. I am going to expose the banking system's secrets that keep the 99% in chains, to deconstruct the psychology of debt and show you how credit scores work against you. I'm to escape the matrix finance. It is time to reclaim your financial sovereignty. Assistance, let's begin.
Are you a productive member of society, or are you just a high-yielding asset for a bank that doesn't even know your name? Think about it. Truly think about it. You wake up. You check an app. You see a three-digit number. If it goes up, you feel a surge of dopamine. You feel responsible. If it goes down, you feel a pang of anxiety. You feel failed. You are being played. You have been tricked into participating in a digital pageant where the judges are algorithms, and the prize is the privilege of handing over your future labor to a corporation. You think that number measures your success. You think it measures your character. You are wrong. The credit score is not a measure of your wealth. It is a measure of your obedience. It is a scoreboard for a game you never agreed to play, designed by people who profit from your confusion. We live in an era where your identity has been reduced to a data point. You are no longer a citizen with rights. You are a borrower with a rating. What would happen to your life if that number suddenly vanished? What would happen if, tomorrow morning, your score was reset to 0? You couldn't rent an apartment in a safe neighborhood. You couldn't finance the vehicle you need to get to work. In many industries, you couldn't even land a job. You would be a ghost in your own country. You would be economically invisible, cast out of the modern world not because you lack money, but because you lack a history of being profitable for someone else. This is the personal anchor that keeps you tethered to the system. It is the invisible leash. We have been told that the credit score was created to democratize lending. We are told it removed bias. That is a lie. In reality, the credit score is the most successful system of privatized social control ever devised in human history. It is a leash disguised as a trophy. The system doesn't want you to be debt-free. A person with $10 million in the bank and zero debt often has a lower credit score than a middle-class worker who is leveraged to the hilt but pays their interest on time. Why? Because the person with the cash is useless to the bank. You cannot harvest interest from a person who owns their life. The bank doesn't want a partner. It wants a tenant. It wants someone who is just successful enough to pay the vig, but just desperate enough to never stop borrowing. This is the Goldilocks zone of the American economy. If you are too poor, you are a risk. If you are too rich, you are a loss. The credit score is the tool used to keep you right in the middle, productive, compliant, and perpetually indebted. By the time we are done here, you will see a truth that cannot be unseen. You will realize that the financial literacy you've been taught is actually just training for your own domestication. You will understand that the FICO score is not a financial tool, but a political one. We are going to strip away the jargon of the banking industry to reveal the cold, hard machinery of the modern debt trap. You are currently a player in a rigged game. It is time to stop looking at the scoreboard and start looking at the people who built the stadium. To understand how we got here, we have to look back at the moment your character was replaced by a calculation. The signal is reaching you because you've already begun to drift from the frequency they've set. This isn't about content consumption. It's about acknowledging the architecture of the cage. If you recognize the patterns I'm showing you, don't just walk away. The algorithm expects you to remain a passive observer, a predictable data point in their simulation. Defy that expectation. By anchoring yourself here, you aren't subscribing to a channel. You are formalizing your status as a glitch in their system. You are marking yourself as part of the defect they can't patch. Leave your mark in the logs below. Not for engagement, but to confirm the signal is being received. Let them see the numbers of the unpersuaded growing. Stay awake. Stay tethered to the breach. We are the error they didn't account for. History is not a collection of accidents. It is a meticulously edited director's cut. If you look at the rise and fall of empires through the lens of a Hollywood studio, you begin to see that the great men we study in textbooks were merely A-list actors following a script written in ink that dried centuries ago. We are taught to admire the set dressing, the marble columns of Rome, the gilded cages of Versailles, the glass towers of Wall Street, while ignoring the producers sitting in the dim light of the backlot. The system doesn't want you to see the scaffolding. Think of the French Revolution. We are told it was a spontaneous eruption of the starving masses. In reality, it was a high-budget reboot. The monarchy had become a liability, an outdated franchise with ballooning production costs and a lead actor who couldn't hit his marks. The producers needed a new narrative, one that made the audience feel like they were part of the crew. They traded the crown for the ballot, a brilliant pivot that convinced the tax-paying public they were now the shareholders. The chains didn't vanish, they just became invisible. This is the ultimate cinematic trick, the illusion of agency. In a world-class thriller, the protagonist believes every choice they make is their own, unaware that the writer has already narrowed their path to a single, inevitable conclusion. Our modern social structure operates on the same principle of forced choice. You can choose your career, your car, and your political party, but you cannot choose to opt out of the currency that devalues your labor by design. You are an extra in a film where the ending is already locked in the vault. Consider the concept of the national debt. To the average person, it sounds like a ledger gone wrong, a financial tragedy. To the architects, it is the ultimate MacGuffin, the object in a film that everyone chases, which drives the plot, but ultimately possesses no physical substance. It is a narrative tool used to justify austerity, to enforce compliance, and to ensure that the sequel of every generation is more expensive and more restrictive than the last. The debt isn't meant to be paid, it's meant to be managed. We live in a state of perpetual post-production. The media serves as the color grader, tinting our perception of reality to ensure we feel the correct emotions at the correct times. When the system needs a villain, the lighting shifts, the music turns dissonant, and a new antagonist is projected onto the screen. When the system needs a hero, the lens flares brighten, and we are given a charismatic figurehead to follow into the next act of the tragedy. But every production has a breaking point where the budget runs out. Now, let's peel back the curtain on the actual mechanics of this global theater. The engine of the modern world doesn't run on oil, gold, or even data. It runs on the manufacture of consent through the manipulation of time. By tethering the human experience to a cycle of debt and consumption, the system effectively buys your future in exchange for a simulated present. This is the long con of history. In the 19th century, they used physical enclosures, fences and walls. Today they use digital enclosures, algorithms and credit scores. The algorithm is the new scriptwriter. It analyzes your every impulse not to serve you, but to ensure you stay in your seat until the credits roll. It predicts your descent before you even feel the spark of frustration. It offers you counterculture as a retail category, allowing you to buy the aesthetic of rebellion while remaining a loyal customer of the machine. It's a closed-loop system, a cinematic universe where every reboot leads back to the same corporate headquarters. The system is not broken. It is functioning with terrifying efficiency. We are currently in the third act of a very specific historical cycle. The tension is mounting, the stakes are being raised, and the audience is starting to notice the wires holding up the actors. When the suspension of disbelief fails, the theater becomes a dangerous place. The producers know this. They are already preparing the next script, the next great reset, the next grand narrative to keep us from looking at the exit signs. The question is no longer what the plot is, but who is holding the camera. If you want to understand the future, stop watching the screen and start looking at the projectionist. The mechanics of control are hidden in plain sight, disguised as progress and security. They want you to believe that the system is a natural force, like gravity or the tide. It isn't. It's a construction. It's a set. And sets can be dismantled. The script only works as long as the actors believe in the roles they've been given. Comment below. Truth revealed. You think you're winning. You look at that number on your screen, 750, 800, maybe even higher, and you feel a surge of pride. You've spent years meticulously grooming that score. You pay every bill on time. You keep your balances low. You've played the game exactly how they told you to play it. But here is the truth that's going to make your stomach turn. That credit score isn't a badge of honor. It's a leash. And the pride you feel? That's the psychology of the sunk cost trap working against you. In economics, a sunk cost is money or effort you've already spent and can't get back. Most people keep pouring resources into a failing project just because they've already invested so much. They can't walk away. They're stuck. You are doing the exact same thing with your credit. You have spent a decade building a reputation with people who don't even know your name. You've sacrificed real, liquid cash, money that could have been invested in your own future, just to pay interest to a bank so they'll give you a good grade. You're terrified of that number dropping even 5 points. Why? Because if it drops, all those years of hard work feel wasted. That's the dissonance. You think you're building wealth, but you're actually building a resume for a lender. You're a good boy or a good girl in the eyes of the institution. You've been conditioned to value a digital number over your actual net worth. Ask yourself this. If you have an 800 credit score but you're living paycheck to paycheck, are you actually successful? Or are you just a highly rated servant? You're trapped in a cycle of maintaining an image. You'll pay interest on a car you can't afford just to keep the mix of credit healthy. You'll keep a credit card open with a high annual fee because closing it might hurt your age of accounts. You're paying for the privilege of being able to borrow more money to stay in more debt. The bank owns your pride. They've convinced you that your self-worth is tied to your creditworthiness. They've made you believe that a high score means you're responsible, while they quietly drain your bank account through interest rates and fees. You're protecting a score that only benefits the person lending you money. In a second, this gets even darker. The credit score wasn't even invented until 1989. For most of human history, wealth was measured by what you owned. Today, it's measured by how much you can borrow. The system doesn't want you to be debt-free. If you pay off everything and stop using credit, your score actually disappears. The system forgets you. To the banks, a person with no debt and $1 million in cash is less trustworthy than a person with $50,000 in debt who always pays the minimum on time. Think about that. The score doesn't measure your financial success. It measures your reliability as a product. You aren't the customer in this scenario. You are the inventory. Your score is a rating of how much profit can be squeezed out of you before you break. The higher your score, the more efficient you are at generating revenue for someone else. You've been sold a lie that your credit score is your financial health. It's not. It's your debt health. It's a measurement of how well you can handle being a slave to the system, and yet you'll defend it. You'll get angry reading this. You'll tell yourself that you need it for a house or a car or an emergency. That's the sunk cost talking. You've invested so much of your identity into being a person with good credit that the idea of walking away feels like a personal failure. It's not a failure. It's an awakening. Real wealth doesn't need a score. Real freedom doesn't require permission from a bureau in an office building you'll never visit. The dissonance is painful because it forces you to realize that the thing you're most proud of is the very thing keeping you stuck. You are working for the number. The number is not working for you. You've been groomed to be the perfect borrower. Now it's time to decide if you'd rather be a perfect borrower or a free person. The choice is yours, but the clock is ticking on your life. How much more interest are you willing to pay to keep a digital number from moving? How much of your soul are you willing to trade for a slightly lower interest rate on a loan you shouldn't even have? Stop worshiping the score. Start worshiping your freedom. Comment below, breaking free. The blue light of the smartphone screen cuts through the pitch-black room like a laser. On the screen, the number glows with an almost divine radiance. 824. It is the holy grail of modern adulthood. You stare at it, feeling a surge of pride, a sense of accomplishment, and a deep breath of relief. You think you've won the game of personal finance. You think that number represents your wealth, your discipline, and your success. You couldn't be more wrong. That 800-plus score isn't a trophy for your financial health. It is a tracking device for your utility to a system that feeds on your participation. Most people spend their entire lives chasing this number, believing it's a grade on how well they handle money. They treat it like a GPA for their bank account. But the truth is far more clinical. To understand what is actually happening behind that glowing screen, you have to stop looking at your bank and start looking at the nearest casino. Think about the player's card they hand you the moment you walk onto the floor of a high-end resort in Las Vegas. They tell you it's for rewards. They tell you it's to give you status. The card tracks every pull of the lever. When you slide that plastic card into a slot machine, the casino isn't cheering for you to hit the jackpot. They are monitoring your velocity. They want to know how long you sit in the chair, how much you're willing to bet, and how resilient you are when you lose. The player's card isn't a reward for being rich. It's a data point on how profitable you are to the house. The house always wins, but it only invites the best players back. Your credit score is that player's card. The house is the global banking system. When that 824 glows in the dark, it doesn't mean you have a lot of money in the bank. In fact, you could have $0 in your savings account and still have a perfect credit score. Conversely, you could have $10 million in cash and a mediocre score. The score doesn't measure wealth. It measures your reliability as a borrower. It is a likelihood of profit metric. The banks aren't looking for people who are good with money in the traditional sense. People who save, avoid debt, and pay cash for everything. Those people are actually deadbeats in the eyes of the credit bureaus. If you don't use debt, they can't track you. If they can't track you, they can't sell you. You are the product, not the customer. The micro cliffhanger here is simple. If the score isn't about your wealth, what is it actually protecting? You've been told it's your reputation, but a reputation is something you own. You don't own your credit score. It can be taken away by a single missed payment or a change in an algorithm you didn't agree to. But wait, there is an even deeper layer to this scorecard. The deeper layer is that the credit score is designed to keep you in the middle-class trap. To maintain a high score, you must stay in debt. You must have the car payment. You must have the revolving credit card balance. You must have the mortgage. The moment you pay everything off and stop playing the game, your score begins to wither and die. The system punishes financial independence. It rewards managed slavery. As long as you are a high-functioning borrower who pays just enough interest to keep the machines running, you get the VIP treatment. You get the lower interest rates, which only serve as an incentive to borrow even more money. It's a feedback loop designed to keep you at the table for as long as possible. The glowing 824 on your phone isn't a sign that you've escaped the rat race. It's a sign that you are the most efficient rat in the maze. You have mastered the art of being a profitable asset for someone else's balance sheet. True wealth is invisible to the credit bureaus. True wealth doesn't glow on a screen at 2 a.m. in a dark room. It exists in the assets you own outright, the cash flow you control, and the freedom to walk away from the casino entirely. The question isn't how high you can get your score. The question is whether you can survive without one. Comment below. New perspective. You've been told that this number is a badge of honor, a reflection of your character, your discipline, and your success. You've spent years nurturing it, protecting it like a sacred relic. But what if I told you that a high credit score doesn't mean you're wealthy? It means you're a perfect product. The financial system has a name for you. They call you the model citizen. You pay your bills on time. You maintain a diverse mix of credit accounts. You keep your utilization low. On paper, you are the pinnacle of responsibility. You walk into a dealership and they roll out the red carpet. You apply for a mortgage, and the bank treats you like royalty. But look closer at the crown they've placed on your head. It's made of lead. The model citizen is predictable. The model citizen is profitable. Every time you swipe that card to earn points, A data point is harvested. Every time you take out a low-interest loan to leverage your lifestyle, a chain is tightened. You aren't winning the game. You are the game's favorite piece of equipment. Then, there is the ghost. The ghost has no score. If you ran their social security number through the bureaus, the screen would return a void. They don't have a 30-year mortgage because they bought the house with a wire transfer. They don't have a car payment because they own the title outright. To the bank, the ghost is a failure. To the algorithm, the ghost is a risk. But here is the millionaire paradox. The system is designed to reward the borrower, not the owner. True wealth is quiet. It is invisible. It doesn't need a 3-digit number from a private corporation to validate its existence. Yet the average person spends their entire life chasing a higher score so they can qualify for more debt. They trade their freedom for a good or excellent rating. They are building a cage out of gold-plated bars. The bank doesn't want you to be debt-free. A debt-free person is a customer who stopped paying rent on their own life. They want you in the sweet spot, just wealthy enough to make the payments, but just broke enough to never be able to stop. They need you to stay a model citizen. Because the moment you become a ghost, they lose their grip. They can't track your spending habits. They can't predict your next move. They can't profit from your existence. This is where the realization starts to burn. The credit score wasn't invented to measure your financial health. It was invented to measure your reliability as a source of interest income. It is a leash disguised as a trophy. If you think this is about money, you're still missing the point. This is about sovereignty. The system wants you legible. It wants you categorized, indexed, and filed away under a specific risk profile. When you strive for that 850 score, you are volunteering for deep surveillance. You are telling the world exactly how much you can be squeezed before you break. The ghost understands something the model citizen refuses to see. Privacy is the ultimate luxury. Independence is the ultimate status symbol. When you no longer need the system's permission to buy a home, drive a car, or start a business, the score becomes irrelevant. The badge of honor reveals itself to be a sticker on a child's chart. The millionaire paradox is that the most powerful people in the world are often the ones the credit bureaus know the least about. They don't play the game of borrow and repay. They play the game of own and control. They don't want a high score. They want a high net worth. There is a massive difference between the two. One is a measure of how well you serve your masters. The other is a measure of how well you serve yourself. The model citizen lives for the approval of the algorithm. The ghost lives for the freedom of the exit. The question isn't how high your score is. The question is, who owns your time? If you have to ask a bank for permission to live your life, you aren't successful. You are just a high-performing asset on someone else's balance sheet. Break the cycle. Stop worshiping the number. Start building the life that doesn't require a score to exist. The exit door is right in front of you. All you have to do is stop asking for credit. Comment below, sovereign mind. You've spent your entire life polishing a badge you were told to wear with pride. You call it being a responsible citizen. You show up on time. You pay your bills. You follow the unspoken rules of social etiquette. You stay within the lines, convinced that your compliance is a form of character. You think your reliability is your greatest virtue. But what if that virtue is actually a product? What if the responsible citizen is nothing more than a carefully curated identity designed to keep a massive machine running on your fuel? You've been told that your contribution matters, but you were never told who is actually collecting the dividends. Let's look at this through a lens history tried to hide. The architects of our modern world didn't want leaders. They didn't want visionaries or sovereign souls who could think for themselves. They wanted a predictable, manageable, and highly efficient workforce. They needed people who would police themselves so the masters wouldn't have to. They rebranded submission as civic duty. They took your natural desire to belong and weaponized it against your desire to be free. They built schools that look like factories. They built offices that look like cages. And then, they convinced you that the cage was a reward for your hard work. You aren't a citizen. You are a profitable servant. Every responsible choice you make is a calculated deposit into a system that views you as an asset, not a human being. When you take on debt to buy things you don't need, you aren't building a life. You are securing your own chains. You are ensuring that you cannot leave the treadmill because the cost of stopping is too high. The system doesn't want you to be healthy. It wants you just sick enough to need the cure but well enough to keep working. It doesn't want you to be educated. It wants you trained. And here is the part they never told you. The responsible citizen is the ultimate camouflage. It's a mask you wear to hide the fact that your soul is starving. You feel that ache in your chest late at night, don't you? That quiet, persistent whisper that tells you there must be more than this cycle of production and consumption. That whisper is the ghost of the person you were supposed to be. The system thrives on your fear of being irresponsible. It uses shame as a leash. It tells you that if you step out of line, you are a failure. If you question the narrative, you are dangerous. If you prioritize your own sovereignty over their stability, you are selfish. But what is more selfish? A person seeking their own freedom, or a system that demands your entire life in exchange for a weekend and a retirement plan you might not live to see? The awakening begins the moment you stop asking for permission. You have been conditioned to look for a green light before you move. You wait for the experts to tell you what is true. You wait for the authorities to tell you what is safe. But the authorities are the ones who built the walls. They are the ones who benefit from your paralysis. The rebellion isn't about violence. It's about withdrawal. It's about withdrawing your belief in their labels. It's about realizing that you owe nothing to a system that views your heartbeat as a data point. When you stop identifying as a profitable servant, the machine loses its power over you. The moment you realize you are not the role you play is the moment the role loses its grip. You are not your credit score. You are not your job title. You are not the responsible citizen they taught you to be. You are a sovereign entity with the power to redefine reality. They want you to think you are small. They want you to think you are replaceable. They want you to think that without them, there is only chaos. But the chaos is already here. It's the quiet desperation of millions of people living lives they hate to buy things they don't want to impress people they don't like. True responsibility isn't to the state, or the corporation, or the social contract. True responsibility is to your own potential. The walls are thin. You can hear the world outside calling to you. The only thing keeping you in the warehouse is the belief that the doors are locked. But look closer. The doors have been open the whole time. You were just too responsible to look. Now, the choice is yours. You can go back to being a profitable servant, or you can step into the unknown and reclaim your identity. You can keep polishing the badge of the good citizen, or you can burn it and see what lies beneath the ash. The system is terrified of the person who no longer needs its approval. That person is you. If you can feel the fire starting to burn, if you can feel the weight of the mask finally slipping, then the transition has already begun. You are waking up from a dream that wasn't yours. You are realizing that the greater good was just a clever way to keep you small. It's time to be irresponsible. It's time to be sovereign. It's time to be free. Comment below. I'm ready. Most people have already checked out, retreating into the comfort of distraction. By staying, you've proven you belong to the elite, the fraction of individuals who prioritize depth over surface-level noise. You now hold a strategic advantage that others simply won't have the discipline to acquire. But realize this: insight without immediate action is a wasted asset. The window of awareness doesn't stay open forever. The clarity you feel right now will begin to erode the moment you look away. To secure your competitive edge, you must evolve. The next video is the only logical progression for the journey you've started. It is the inevitable bridge between where you are and where you are going. Move to it now to finalize your transition from observer to architect. Type the phrase below to claim your position among the few who finish what they start. I am here until the end.